Let's cross to Canberra now and catch up with the leader and founder of One Nation, Pauline Hanson. Thanks for joining us, Pauline. I got to say, I had a lot of fun catching up with the Stepmates crew, Mark and Seb and their other staff who make those cartoons. I just love, forget about the political messages you're trying to run in them. It's so good to see some humour in political debate, isn't it? Is that what keeps you trying to fund them and keep them going?
Chris, look, we've had a great response from the people of Australia who loved seeing our cartoons and can't wait till they come out. And they reckon makes their week. And not only that, do you know, Chris, we've just got to write up a report from the University of New South Wales, and actually they're saying that basically it's from the far right, and they're basically truthful but also having a go at us because they are left-leaning and they don't like this put out. So they've actually come out having a swing at us about it. But
how pathetic.
A laugh. You have a laugh about it. The truthful people are learning a lot about politics in it. So I think they're beneficial to the Australian people. Yeah,
there's a lot of good info in there. I mean, how could you call this week's episode Far Right, for instance? It's about reducing taxes on our petrol to help with the cost of living. I mean, that's what mainstream Australians would agree with in the main, I would reckon. Let's get to the big issues dominating federal parliament at the moment. And of course, you're expecting to stick around now to deal with some legislation yet unseen to fix up this detainee mess. Yet Claire O'Neill seems to be saying it's everybody else's fault but hers.
Exactly right, Chris, and it's how pathetic it is. And saying, oh, well, blaming the coalition for the situation that we're in. They knew last May that they had to be prepared for this and what was the outcome was coming. And even one of the judges tried to warn them in July about what was coming, but they did absolutely nothing about it. Do you know that this came up about 2 weeks ago. The coalition didn't get that information from them, sat down with them at about 7 o'clock in the morning, expected to pass it on virtually the last day of sitting in Parliament, last sitting, and then I got it 5 minutes before I went into the chamber to speak about it, what was actually going on. They haven't worked with the coalition. This is what this government's about. They are not prepared. They never have a plan for it. Even when they put up legislation, Chris, they are always amending their own legislation. I asked them questions on the floor of Parliament, right across the board with a lot of issues. They can't answer the questions. They don't know what they're doing. And especially, we knew this. We knew before they came in. We knew what Rudd did with the immigration and the 50,000 people that came to this country, illegal immigrants in here, that they never knew. They can't be trusted. They've just handed now the immigration back to the people smugglers, and that's just been evident this week with the 12 that landed here that paid $8,000 to the people smugglers to get here. There'll be more boats arriving. It's
such a worry. When it comes to these non-citizens who have now been freed, 141 of them, don't we have the right, don't Australians have the right to know who these people are and what their criminal backgrounds are? Because not only does this government seem to accept their right to be free, they didn't try and hold them up in detention to sort out the legal mess. They just let them all out straight away. But also it gives them the right of privacy now over our rights to protection, even though they're not citizens.
Well, the courts have taken away the rights of the Australian people to know who these people are, and the fact that we have an issue of security. A lot of these people are murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and they're being released into our community thanks to the High Court. But the government should be prepared with their legislation. The High Court ruled that under Chapter 3 of the Australian Constitution that they are the only ones with the power to actually impose penalties on criminals, and not the Parliament itself. So that in itself is a real concern to me. To say that they couldn't be detained in the detention centres for an indefinable amount of time unless there was clear possibility of them being deported from the country or released. Now, that was another determination by the High Court. This fella there was no potential of him ever being released from the detention centre, so therefore they had to release him. Another thing is, the government knew this. Now, the High Court's basically saying you can't use punitive measures on these people. So putting ankle bracelets on them is actually a punitive measure, which is a punishment that the government cannot do. That is only the High Court that can do that. My main concern here, Chris, is also that these people have been detained, and by the High Court's ruling, my interpretation, I'm no lawyer, but just reading it, that we could be opening ourselves up now to a whole raft of
compensation claims.
compensation
Oh, what?
correct for the
non-citizens
yes,
released,
because they were-
kept anonymous, and
for
getting
their
compensation.
illegal detention.
I fear
So
you could be
it's
right.
not- Yeah, and see, the whole thing is that it's not the coalition. See, we all voted for this. I voted for it with the coalition when they passed in the Parliament last time the laws, and Labor supported it. If they had an argument about it, why didn't they say it then? They never picked it up. They never knew what the High Court. You can't interpret how the High Court is going to interpret what's brought before them by the plaintiffs. So that is the problem that we have. Unless we put in solid legislation, that means that we can. But I have a problem with that also, because under Section 77 of the Australian Constitution, it is only the Parliament can make judicial rulings for federal courts. You can't do it for the High Court. The High Court is a law unto itself. We have a real problem here.
Yeah, it's going to take a power of fixing. This legislation will only be part of it, and it could be a problem for a long while to come.